Welcome once again to the Kaufman Corner podcast. Down a man, but still at it. Les Norman in Florida, enjoying some wonderful sunshine down in Florida. So happy vacation to you, Les Norman. In his place are just me and David. David Lesky from Inside the Crown, Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. We got a lot of Royals baseball to talk, as the Royals have made quite a move. Have they done enough? Is there something else they need to do? Do they get it right with the amounts of money on Maikel Garcia? Lane Thomas has been signed. Will he platoon with Kyle Isbell, Jack Caglione? How about the trade with the Brewers? Good, bad, ugly? How does it work in the bullpen? How much is Isaac Collins going to play? What else should they be looking at? What other deals could be there? We're talking about it right here, right now on the Kaufman Corner podcast.
You're listening to the Kaufman Corner Podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by David Lesky, Les Norman, and Soren Petro. David Lesky is an accomplished author and the publisher of the Inside the Crown Royals baseball newsletter. Les Norman is a former Royals outfielder. He's the host of Breaking the Norm with Les Norman on Sports Radio 810 WHB, as well as the author of Teaching the Tools of Hitting. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are your hosts, David Lesky, Les Norman, and Soren Petro.
Thank you, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Off and running here on the Kaufman Corner podcast. David Lesky, let's talk about whether or not the Royals have done enough. If this was it, if this is all that they got done, are you satisfied? Are you content as a Royals fan with this offseason? I think back to what they did in 24, where they put out a shopping list and they checked every single box. We need 2 starting pitchers. We need an everyday outfielder. We need some bullpen weapons. They seem to get every single thing on their shopping list. I feel like you can make a case that they've hit all the shopping list right now, because if Collins is an everyday outfielder, they got an everyday outfielder, they got a platoon partner for Caglione. Those were really the things they wanted. They wanted to improve the offense. You can make a case for it. I don't know that I would land there. Do you?
I think that they accomplished their shopping list, but they didn't get the exact ingredients they came to get. They're able to make the meal, right? But it's not going to be as good as it could have been. Of course, it is December 18th, so there's plenty of time to find the ingredients to make that meal. So no, I mean, I think if they went into the season today, I think you'd look at them and say that's an 84 win team, 82 win team, 500-ish, maybe a couple above, a couple below. That's not good enough. They were that last year. They were 82 and 80. They need to go into the season. I think to be a successful offseason, I think that if they need to get to the opening day and say that's an 88 win team, I think that there's more success than that possible. But you've got to look at this team and say that this team can compete for a division title. And I don't think the team is currently constructed can. So I think there's more to come. But yeah, I think that they put themselves in a position where it doesn't have to be a ton, as much to go right to get those extra 5, 6, 7 wins. But look, you want to get to the point that an extra 5, 6, 7 wins makes you the best team, not the third best team.
I think they've done enough, right? It's like it's 13 pieces of flair,
yeah,
right? Like the bare minimum, right? If you don't catch that reference, you're not old.
It's full shenanigans.
Yes, it's Jennifer Aniston and her minimum pieces of flair as she works at Tchotchkes. Or was in that? Was it? Or No, it
Was
a
it?
number of
Wait, was it
tchotchkes.
tchotchkes or shenanigans? Now I can't remember.
I
What
don't
were
remember.
shenanigans from?
It was how many? The tchotchkes were the pieces. No, I think it was tchotchkes. And then it was how many pieces of flair you had, the little buttons and little goofy things. Anyway, I do feel like
but what movie was shenanigans from? Oh, it was Waiting. Waiting was shenanigans. Never mind.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. I don't think I saw it.
I had to derail us to figure out.
No, it's all right. It's all right. Great moments in cinema. Only the best movies spoken here on Coffee Corner.
Of course.
I think they've done enough, right? Like if you're a fan, this is what they got done. They've done enough because of how well they did 2 years ago, and because even last year they didn't bring on a bad contract. I want to reiterate that not signing Santander and not signing Profar is just as important as getting Waka and getting Lugo, right? Those are the big ticket gets for the team a couple of years ago. I can't remember. They had somebody else in that mix. They had another bat that I can't remember. It was Adam Frazier.
Yeah, last year or 2 years?
2 years ago.
2 years, yeah.
It was Renfro and another bat.
It started off, I just wrote this, so I can remember the timeline. It was Will Smith started it, and then it was, I don't remember the exact order, but it was, Garrett Hampson actually started it. Then it was Will Smith, then Waka, Lugo, Renfro, Chris Stratton. They traded for Nick Anderson. You're right. Is there another bat, or was it just Renfro?
He was Adam Frazier, wasn't it?
Well, he came later. He was like February. He was a late signing.
Oh, was it? Okay.
And yeah, I'm trying to remember.
Well, whoever it was,
it's gonna drive me nuts. But yes,
yeah. I'll look back on it. But anyway, I they did such a nice job that year, and Hunter Renfroe that first year I know wasn't good to start, but then he was pretty good for a couple months, and then he kind of tailed off. But they did a great job, but then last year they had a plan, but they, I think it's important to not just be like, I think it was amazing. Like I remember when they were partway through their shopping list 2 years ago, going, if this is it, they've done great, right? Because you can have a list of wants, but you're almost never going to get all your wants. And so that's where I'm at right now. They've done enough, right? This is a competent offseason for the Kansas City Royals. But if they add a true everyday outfielder, right, to where now Isaac Collins is a guy that is your fourth outfielder, a little more than your fourth outfielder because of how you're going to DH some guys and stuff like that, then they've hit it out of the park. Maybe they need to find a reliever as well. But I think this is because I can't stress how important it was to not have a bad contract in Santander hanging around their necks. And so if they had him right now, and they were talking about having to move somebody to cut payroll, then this look real different. But as it stands right now, they've checked the two biggest boxes, getting a couple bats in the outfield in here. And they still have the upside of Jack Caglione. They still have the upside of Carter Jensen behind the plate, and they still haven't moved their big arms. You and I talked about that on the radio today. You brought that up. You still have those big tickets that you can go out there that I would say that, yes, they have done enough, and the possibilities there for them to do more because they could move an arm, particularly Chris Bubich. That's what, $6 or $7 million is where he's going to be at for a $6 or $7 million outfielder, or maybe it's a $10 or $12 million outfielder, and be in pretty good shape. They could move a couple of young pieces for a pitcher. And I also think that depending upon what else they do, they could even be in the market, which we'll talk about later on what else they could do, but in the market to bring in some prospects, which I think is something that a small market team should always be looking to do, is to bring on more talent for their minor leagues. So, I don't think it's as good as the 24 season. I think it's better than the 25 off season, but I think to be determined, right, is the ultimate answer because they can still add to it at this point.
Yeah, I saw something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was, and this is just changes every 20 seconds. This guy's sign, but at one point it was 21 of the top 50 free agents on the Athletic had signed. That means 29 haven't, and I think it's like 23 or 24 now. So, but the opportunity is still there. You're right. And what I think they've done is somebody told me after the Collins trade, they said, look, we still want to do something, but we don't have to do something. Right. And I think that's a really good, a good clarification, a good point, because when you have to do something, you do stupid things. You get desperate, and desperation leads to bad contracts. Bad contracts lead to issues in 2027 and 28 and 29 and all that. And because they've made good moves, and to your point, because they didn't make bad moves last winter, which everybody wanted them to do. And I wrote about this. I said, look, the Royals are being responsible. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. They were right, as it turned out. I should have agreed with it. But that allowed them to that allows them now to not be desperate, because they don't, like you said, they don't have to unload money. They don't have to try to eat $34 million on a Santander contract or whatever it might be. And they can be a little choosy, because if they go into, if they get to Truist Park, whatever it's called, on March 27th with this team, they can compete. They can compete every single day. And part of that's because their starting pitching is so good. Like, they will always, generally, almost always be in games. I mean, there's going to be blow-ups, obviously. But this offense, I believe, with the addition of an OBP bat in Isaac Collins, with a good platoon bat in Lane Thomas. I mean, they couldn't hit lefties last year, and Lane Thomas has done nothing but hit lefties in his career, other than last season, which is worth noting. But they've added all of that so far, and like we mentioned, they haven't subtracted anything of real value. I mean, Angel Serpa is, at times, looks like he should be the closer, and at other times looks like he should be in AAA. So I understand the allure of him. I also understand why you just move him. And they still have all their chips. They still have all of this. And I think if they got to opening day, you'd look at that team and you would not think that you would go to the game on any given day and say, oh, they're losing, which we've seen a lot of in Kansas City, right? Like this is not, it's been a lot of years of, I'm going to the park, and unless Zach Greinke is pitching, unless I don't even know who, Brad Keller in 2020, not that we could go to the park, but unless those guys are pitching, we're going to see a loss unless something miraculous happens. And I don't think you'll ever get to that point this season, assuming health.
If Collins is your everyday left fielder, if you have a platoon of Thomas and Caglione and right, everybody else is back in their spot from last year. You cross your fingers and hope for health, right? I think Jonathan India, you would expect to bounce back a little bit. I think the arrow's still up on Pasquantino. Bobby should be somewhere between his last two seasons. Maikel hopefully repeats. If Salvi can be Salvi, but Carter Jensen's big upside. There's upside in Caglione to get things going. Yeah, they're definitely better. They're definitely better. They've got to find somebody for Angel Serpa, but I think this team will now always have one or two guys coming out of the minors that can be an arm for them. And so I think you feel real confident if you're the Royals that, yes, there will be pitching help, and they're going to be, in the bullpen always, now that they're a professional organization. And so, yeah,
a real live team.
Yeah, exactly. I think now, yes, they've definitely done enough. All right, let's I want to talk about Maikel Garcia. So we'll take a quick break here. I'll let you hear from our friends at Greenlight, and then we'll get into the Garcia extension next.
Greenlight Dispensary, voted Kansas City's best dispensary and your go-to for quick, convenient service. With 4 locations across the Kansas City area, we're never far away. Our drive-through and express windows make it easy to get in, get out, and get on with your day. Our award-winning service is powered by a team of experts dedicated to making your experience seamless and enjoyable. It's no wonder we've been voted the best. Convenient locations, fast service, knowledgeable staff. That's the Greenlight difference. Visit us today.
This episode of Kaufman Corner is brought to you by Frontier Justice, where freedom is a lifestyle grounded in safety, responsibility, and respect. With locations in Lee's Summit, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, and Jenks, Oklahoma, Frontier Justice offers firearms retail, a premier indoor shooting range, and training all under one roof. Whether you're new to shooting or a seasoned pro, you'll find expert staff, top-tier gear, and a strong sense of community. Faith, family, freedom. That's what Frontier Justice stands for. Visit frontier-justice.com to learn more.
All right, the Maikel Garcia deal, which the Royals had their press conference as we sit here yesterday, was when they had that press conference and it talked about how it came together and how they signed him and everything. It was an interesting press conference to listen to. But the way it shakes out, it basically averages $11.5 million a year. before the option year kicks in. But he's actually going to be paid 4.3. What is there? There was a signing bonus too, wasn't there? $1.3 million.
Yeah, like 1.3 million. Yeah.
Yeah, going to get 4.3 million in 26, then 7.3, 10.3, 13.3, 19.3 in 2030. Then in 2031, when he is 31, there's a club option, a pure club option for $21 million. I don't think anybody robbed anybody here, but I think it's a good deal for the ball club for sure. I mean, I think if Maikel Garcia wants guaranteed money, this is generational wealth. And the Royals get a ball player that, you said it today, high floor, right? The question is how much ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said on the show, it's a good deal for it's a fair deal for both sides. I don't think anybody came out ahead. I don't think anybody came out robbed. It's a fair deal. I was looking at some third base contracts, and I mean, Nolan Arenado, whatever, Rafael Devers, whatever. But Ryan McMahon signed his deal at 27, 6 years and $70 million. I think that it doesn't look as good now because he's stopped hitting, but Ryan McMahon was a pretty league average hitter, great defender. That makes sense. Brian Hayes can't hit, got 8 years and $70 million, also earlier in the process. So that's it. It's a fair deal. Austin Riley got $21.2 million per year at the same age, roughly the same age as Maikel Garcia. Maikel Garcia, I think, is more than half the player of Austin Riley, and he got half the money on an AAV. So, yeah, I think that it makes sense. It's the right number. I like it. I think it provides security for both sides.
Do you like the similarity scores on Baseball Reference?
If they fit my narrative, I love
exactly. Right, 100%. Yeah. Here's similar batters for Maikel Garcia through age 24: Charlie Riley, Bobby Valentine, Danny Richardson, Jerry Denny, Harry Steinfeld, Reno Bertoia, Jack Warner, Tommy Brown, Don Calloway, and Solly Hoffman.
A lot of household names. I thought Steinfeld was better when it moved to Thursdays, but I did too.
Yeah, most similar by age, Charlie Riley. What does that say about what he is? Randy brought up on Sunday his unexpectedly high batting average out of the zone.
Mm-hmm.
His batting average on balls in play wasn't anything freakish. I think it was a little over, I think it was like 308, 309. But by the way, just like the old Charlie Riley, who was born in 1867.
Yeah, I looked him up too. He's a very modern player. He played in the American Association, literally.
Yes, so I guess I'll he's Maikel Garcia is a throwback. Yeah. but yeah, that was the concern that Rainey had. I mean, like, if you had to bet all your money that over the length of this contract, the years that he has, which is what, 6 in there for sure, right? And that what we said, I forget.
5 for sure, yeah.
5 for sure. 5 for sure. Okay, so good. We got an odd number. You got to bet everything you own. Is he going to have more years better than this year or less years better than this year?
By what metric? Offensively, weighted runs created plus, let's say. So he was like what,
OPS plus, I think. Yeah,
sure,
WAR,
okay.
Whatever you want to go with, but just offensively.
I would guess he will. I would bet less. I would bet more years he has less. I mean, because weighted runs created plus, he was 121. OPS plus, I think he was 123. Is that right? That would be. I think he had some batted ball luck in some ways. The batting average on balls in play, like you said, wasn't crazy, but that is an interesting number on the average outside the strike zone. The one thing I will say about that, he doesn't swing outside the zone that much, and so what was his chase rate? It was it was right either behind or ahead of Collins, actually. And I thought it was interesting among players with 400 plate appearances. It was, let's see, he was 91st percentile in chase rate. So I think that to some extent there is some concern that, hey, he's got a lot of hits on pitches outside the zone. I also think that he understands the zone so well that when he swings outside the zone, I don't think it's as flukish that he gets a hit, because I think he's swinging at that pitch with intention. There are obviously cases where he gets fooled. I mean, he still does chase and he still does swing at bad pitches, but I think for a guy who has good plate discipline, you kind of give him the benefit of the doubt on those pitches, because you feel like if they know the zone that well, why are they swinging? Because they can get a hit. So I think that there is something to that, but also it's a little bit fluky. So yeah, I'd say there's more seasons that are below his OPS plus, weighted runs created plus. But I would say, if you ask me if he's going to be above average offensively, I'd say he's more seasons above average, just not as good as he was in 2025.
Okay. Yeah. Does he play the whole contract at third base?
I would guess. Yeah. I mean, I think, I think the caveat here is Bobby Witt, right? Like I've said this for a long time. I think that and I don't know if the Royals would do this, but I think the Royals need to know by 2028 what Bobby Witt's going to do. And if he's not going to sign a new deal, because he's never going to play on those option years, that's just never going to happen. If he's not going to sign a new deal, I think they have to trade him. And if they trade him, Maikel Garcia plays shortstop, which I think by that time might be a little ugly. But I guess I don't know who's going to be coming out through the system, so that's maybe not entirely fair. But like a guy like Josh Hammond, a lot to project, just got drafted this past year, but he fits more as a third baseman. I think that you see Garcia move over to short if Bobby Witt is gone. Otherwise, yeah, I think he probably does. I give it 80% third base, 5% shortstop, like 15% left field. I don't think he moves to second. I could be wrong. It could be that if he gets an offseason of work there, he's good. I've never been impressed with him at second base. He's always looked awkward. He struggles going to his right, which is weird because he does well going to his right at third base, but it's a different angle. I get it. I could see him making a move to a corner outfield and probably left. But I think more likely than not, he's at third base. What do you think?
I think he's probably at third, because I think they're going to be committed to him and Bobby.
Yeah.
First of all, I will say that I think he has less years better than last year. I think it's probably like he has 1 year the same, 1 year better.
Yeah, I can see that.
Two a little less, and then one bad year where he's like hurt or something. It's probably what the odds will be. So I think I don't think the offense. I think there's reason to believe that the offense could take a step forward. That he's been gaining power, and that maybe he becomes a 28 home run hitter. Like, and we're going like, wow, look at this, 28 and 105. Like he looks more like a traditional third baseman. Because I think there was even Manny Machado. When he first moved over there, you're like, oh, I don't know that he's going to have the third base. And no, he did. And so, he's 6'1". He's got the height and the leverage to be able to do it. But I think he stays at third. I do wonder if he loses some quick twitch if he doesn't make his way out to left field. And I think it gets easier to move him to left field if the bat continues to progress.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I don't think he wants to play center. I don't think he wants to run around that much. And they mentioned in the press conference that, oh, yeah, he's happy to play center. That's not the vibe he gave in post-game interviews. So I think like they can say, yeah, he'll go play center. I think they want him to play third base. Right. And so I think that's going to go ahead.
I was going to think back to, was it before 24? It must have been. They played him in center field. Maybe it was before 23. I can't remember. They played him in center field in spring training, and they talked him up. They said, look, this guy, he can play anywhere. And we think center field might be his spot. He played 2 games there and never saw it again until this past season.
Yeah.
I think that's telling. And that's not to say that teams don't make a mistake, players don't make a mistake, but I agree with you. I think that the reason he wasn't out there is because he didn't want to be out there. And that's not to say, that's not him saying, I'm a diva, I'm telling you what to do. He made it very clear that being out there was not in the Royals' best interest, I think. Yeah. And I think they made that decision, and that's fine. It worked out pretty well.
And he blamed his lack of success on the stolen bases on playing the outfield. So he was kind of telling you, like, well, you're gonna play me out here. Don't look for it on the base pass. I think the other thing that should be noted, to give Andy Rogers credit, she wrote about it in last spring training about Bobby Witt's base stealing and all he was doing to be more efficient and better at it. And he was, by the way, this year. But that how much Maikel Garcia's foot speed, even though he was way more successful, is not near what Bobby Witt's is. And so I think, he does it all on great baseball. He's got more spatial awareness than Bobby Witt Jr. does. More, I think part of it's because he wasn't as fast, so he had to become better at those things.
Right.
Bobby Witt,
he's not as good.
Bobby Witt never had to really figure out the jumps because he could just run by it. Didn't matter if he got a good jump; he was just so fast he'd get there. Now, if he can learn all those nuances, then he can be a force. But I really think they're going to call off the dogs on him stealing. I think he's going to steal when they need a base. He's not going to just steal to steal anymore. That's the vibe I get from here now, how the Royals kind of view him evolving. But for Maikel Garcia, I bring that up to say that if he would lose a step or two, if he loses some quick twitch and he loses that base running and he's not the stolen base guy, and then he better gain the power, right?
Yeah.
Third base is so reactionary that I'm optimistic he can stay high level defense at third, much more than he'll stay high level defense at short.
Agreed. Because I think that goes back to the base running, and he's a smart baseball player.
Yeah.
And I think you can get by with some smarts and guile at third base a little bit longer. I also think this is only through at most his age 31 season. Like I said this on the show too. I don't think I'd want Maikel Garcia at 34. I just don't. I think he's fine. In the 6 years that you've got him under team control, potentially 6 years, I don't see a huge drop off. You usually see these guys, it's 32, 33 is where the shift happens, and they don't have him for that. And some guys are earlier, some guys are later. So it's not just okay, well, you hit 32, you're done. But I do think that they are keeping him on the right side of the aging curve, at least.
Yeah, I would agree. Tell me, is Vinny next?
Man, that's such a good question. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's easy to say yes. He wants it,
next, but they might not get to him. Like, I don't think there's anybody else.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I agree with you, because it makes sense. I mean, the production is there, especially, and I'm okay waiting a little bit on this, because he's had a bad start a couple years in a row now. And it didn't torpedo his season because he still had a good year. But if you look at him from May 1st on, he was a top 8 first baseman. From March, whatever opening day was on, he was top 15. Like, April was really bad. And if you remember 2024, he didn't have his first RBI for like 11 games. And then he had that big game against, I think it was the Astros. He had 3 extra base hits and 3 or 4 RBIs, and he was fine. But so that was a much shorter slow start. But I'd like to see him not have a slow start for once. I think there've been good reasons for them. Like 24, he was coming off the injury. This past season, he was pretty open about the fact that his timing was way off because he got stronger, which you never think is a bad thing. But
right.
I believe that. I totally believe that. And he figured it out. The problem is, I think I heard, was it McDowell on your show talking about this, saying that there was no solution at third, but there is a solution at first. I think I hate to give Sam McDowell credit, but that's
right.
It just chaps my hide. But just kidding. I love Sam, but I mean, he's right there. Who's going to play third if Maikel Garcia doesn't? And there are some guys potentially, but if Vinny Pasquantino's not there, Jack Caglianone's there, which he hasn't hit yet. And
that's the problem.
It's a problem, and there's a chance he doesn't hit. Until he does, there's a chance he doesn't. People don't want to hear it, but guys with talent don't always do it. But at the same time, if he does hit, he's going to really hit. And his best position is first base, and Vinny can't play anywhere else. Caglianone maybe can't play anywhere else. I'm curious to see what he looks like in the outfield with the offseason of work. I'll be watching. That plays a role in it too, but I would give him that deal because of what he means to the clubhouse. We've talked about this before. I I don't know that they do, though.
Okay. Lane Thomas, his platoon partner, or Kyle Isbell's platoon partner, right? Does he complete one of those two spots and make it a productive spot? I mean, Caglione didn't hit it all on either side, right? Like,
But he hit lefties better.
I know, which I think is a fluke. I think it's just a guy who's lost. I
think you might be right, but this was a long time ago, and I can't remember who told me this. It was a scout, but not a good one. No, I'm just kidding. It was just a scout who said sometimes a lefty will hit a lefty better, or righties will hit righties better because it forces them to stay in control more. And so I do think that in some ways it's probably a fluke, because if he's struggling, he's got to, I'm trying to find the right word. It's not control, but stay in his stance, stay in his mechanics longer. And so I could see when you're struggling and you have to really focus against a lefty different than a righty, it could actually make you hit better if you're a guy like Jack Caglione. But look, he did it in AAA too. I had the stats somewhere. It was against lefties in AAA, and I don't know how much minor league splits matter. I really don't. He had 450 with a 950 slug, 78 pitches. So let's not pretend like it's a huge sample.
Right. It's a big sample.
And he crushed righties too. I mean, it was 337 with a 652 slug. So it's not like he struggled against anybody. But I do wonder a little bit if maybe he locks in more against a lefty. So I think that's interesting. They talked about a platoon partner for him. I think Isbell needs one more than Caglione. And because, I mean, again, this is something we mentioned on the show, but if the Royals are going to be really good, it's because Jack Caglione hits like crazy in all likelihood. I mean, he's the likeliest guy. If you look at this roster, who's going to hit 50
and
home
or Carter
runs?
Jensen.
I think and more than or, honestly.
Yeah.
But the Royals need Jack Caglione. They don't need him to be a 50 home run bat. It'd be great. They need him to be a 30 home run bat. That's his value, is hitting the ball out of the park. I think I don't think he's going to get to 150 games. I guess it depends on how many lefties they face, but I think it's going to take them. He needs to earn his chance to play against lefties. It's probably going to take a month, just given the number of lefties. I mean, last year they didn't face that many lefties. Less than a quarter of their plate appearances were against lefties. So it's going to be hard to earn that trust. But Kyle Isbell has a much longer track record of needing a platoon partner. And Lane Thomas can play center field. Lane Thomas can hit lefties. The Royals are a better team if Jack Caglione doesn't need days off. And I think that when you look at the end of the year, if they're a 90-win team, it's probably because Jack Caglione hit 30 home runs.
Yeah,
partially.
I think what's interesting about Kyle Isbell, and Lane Thomas has played center. Now he's 30, going to turn 31 in season. You don't want to play in a lot of center, but like you said, there aren't that many games that he's actually going to play. And so there'd be a lot of pinch hit roles, or maybe he's coming in a different, someplace else. But if you got to a point where you were kind of sliding him in there with Kyle Isbell, what's amazing is batting average 240 versus righties 228, on base 286 versus righties 295 against lefties. So he actually gets on base more against lefties, but has a higher batting average against righties. But they're negligible. But the slug, he slugs 381. I mean, he doesn't slug at all. Really, that's what
right.
But he slugs 381 against the righties, 290 against the lefties. So really, where it comes from is the slug there. But I think you mash those two together. If you get great defense when Kyle Isbell plays, it's acceptable.
Yeah,
right? Acceptable.
It works
because the numbers for Lane Thomas are pretty good. By the way, if people haven't seen what Lane Thomas does, Lane Thomas against left-handers is an 859 OPS, 292, 359, 500. So he's
if you go back, I think 2024 he was even better than that.
I'm sure.
Last year was a lost year for him. I mean, he got hit in the wrist and he had plantar fasciitis, which, by the way, is a concern. 302, 386, 492 against lefties in 2024. So, I mean, he had a 646 OPS against righties, but if he can hit lefties like that, that's what they wanted Randall Grichuk to do. And he didn't, which, whatever. It didn't work. It's fine. But yeah, real quick on the Carter Jensen point, I wrote about this in my midwinter roster look. I think the Royals offense gets better just by having Carter Jensen, whether he's good or not, as long as he plays. We've talked about this a million times, but I pulled up an Excel spreadsheet and really nerded out. On days after Salvi didn't catch, so it could be an off day, it could be a day off for him, a day after he DH'd, a day after he played first base. Any of those, he hit 280, 332, 479. Days after he caught, 194, 235, 410. If you can get Salvi out from behind the plate, you catch him only before off days or whatever, and he plays 30 games a year after he caught. The Royals offense gets better just from Carter Jensen existing, just from having a guy you're willing to catch 100 games. So that's a huge bump for the offense right there.
Yeah, I would agree. Let's get into that trade with the Brewers. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot.
This isn't just any burger run. This is a burger run for Whataburger Sweet and Spicy Bacon Burger. 2 fresh all-beef patties with melty cheese, grilled onions, crispy bacon, and sweet and spicy pepper sauce. One for you, one for him, and one for your unofficial roommate, Brad. Always order an extra. You know, for Brad. The all-time favorite sweet and spicy bacon burger from Whataburger. Just like you like it.
All right, let's talk about the trade. First of all, why did the Brewers do this?
I don't know. Well, I know why. They 2 reasons. They actually do like Angel Serpa, I think. I mean, and like we said, there's a lot to like. He's a high octane velocity guy, gets a ton of ground balls, and they have a great infield defense. They also, I think, rightfully believe they can make any pitcher better. And Serpa has better stuff than Nick Mears. So pure stuff. So I think they saw that and said, okay, we like him. And we also have a surplus in the outfield, and Nick Mears doesn't have options, and we think we've maxed him out maybe. So I think that's the rationale behind it. It still doesn't add up to me. And when you,
I agree.
Look, Keith Law wrote about it. I've seen other people kind of say, well, wait, what? And I'll be honest, I think the Brewers get too much benefit of the doubt. I think they are the new Rays in that. I think about the oh God, who was it? Sam. I can't think of his last name. Miller, maybe. Anyway, the tweet that was, "I love this trade for the Rays. Who'd they get and what'd they give up?" and I think I think the Brewers have kind of gotten into that area where it's, hey, Brewers made a trade. It's a good trade. Well, okay, yes, they're a very smart organization, and they have earned a lot of trust and a lot of benefit of the doubt. But this trade doesn't make sense on paper for them. And I mean, look, I know Isaac Collins, he had a tough September. He was 0 for 9 in the postseason. I think it's interesting. A lot of Brewers fans, and I had a lot coming at me because I thought it was a big get for the Royals, which it is. And I don't understand why Brewers fans can't calm down. I always like Brewers fans. But they all talked about he struggled in the second half. Well, he was better in the second half actually than in the first half. Now, that was from mid-July to late August. But even in his last, I think he was 2 for his last 29 with a 310 on base percentage because he takes walks. He has better plate discipline than Maikel Garcia, who has great plate discipline. And If the trade was Angel Serpa for Isaac Collins, I would have loved it. If the trade was Angel Serpa for Nick Mears, I would have loved it. It was Angel Serpa for Isaac Collins and Nick Mears. And I don't get it from the Brewers' perspective. And look, maybe they think he's a starter. I don't know. He's not. I can tell them that. I know that. But they're very good with pitching. So maybe they can figure something out that the Royals, who are also very good with pitching, couldn't quite get to. I don't see the logic, honestly.
Yeah, and unless
from their perspective,
unless they thought there was this hole or this gap in his swing. I mean, he was better in the first half than he was. I'm talking about Isaac Collins, better in the first half than he was the second half. And they're like, okay, the tape's out. They've got it on him, and we snuck him by for a while. We got everything out of him we could, and so now he's going to regress. But I think the fact that Connor Dawson, came over from Milwaukee, he knows this player. You have inside intel, and he is saying, go get him. This is a guy. This is a player. And so from that standpoint, I'm pretty optimistic, right? Like that, I think they're just going to put another guy with some on base on, right? Like, I don't think he's going to hit for pop. I don't think, hopefully he gets some doubles, kind of the looping. He's not going to rocket doubles, but the looping into the gap or just falls inside the line and he can turn the corner and get it scoot into second base. I'm hoping he can pile up the doubles and get on base. And this lineup starts to get longer with guys that get on base.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, we talk about they need a masher. Well, they've got 3 guys who we know can hit 30 home runs. It's not, we think they've got that power. No. Bobby Witt, Vinny Pasquantino, and Salvador Perez have all hit 30 home runs in a season. Carter Jensen and Jack Caglione, those are the 2 guys who we think, well, they can. At some point, I'm not saying they don't need power, but there's a chance they've got the power they need. And they really do just need to lengthen that lineup. And Isaac Collins lengthens the lineup. He credits Connor Dawson quite a bit. I forget where the article was, the Sheboygan Times or something, that he talks about Connor Dawson being the guy who helped him. And it's funny too, because there's a lot of, he's a 27-year-old rookie, he must suck. Well, maybe. I mean, maybe it was a fluke, but he was also in the Rockies organization. They don't know what they're doing. So I think it's fair to not ding a guy for the Rockies not promoting you. He had 1 bad year and they released him. The Brewers picked him up and he immediately went back to doing what he was doing before.
Right.
And then he got to the majors, and he did exactly in the majors this past season what he'd done in every year of his minor league career, except for the one that the Rockies said, "No, we're out," and released the guy. At some point, you go, okay, maybe he's actually that guy. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to be 20% above average offensively again. I think that there are some red flags. The hard hit data is not great,
right?
All that. But look, when you swing at strikes. And when you swing at good strikes, you're going to do damage. And it's very difficult to have great plate discipline and not be a positive offensively. You can have good plate discipline and not be a positive, but to have great plate discipline and not be a positive is pretty tough.
He has 34 extra base hits in 460 plate appearances.
It's okay. Not great.
But it's not bad.
Yeah,
it's not
fine.
bad at all, right? Like, no, is he a slugger? But like, when you consider like that is like we can play with that. That means that like he's going to get on base and occasionally, he's going to be turning for second. He's going to be headed for third. He's going to hit the ball over the wall. I mean, in his 2 years, and he wasn't very good the first year up in the big leagues, but overall combining him and just looking at his splits, 782 against righties, 717 against lefties. Overall, he has 9 home runs, 3 triples, and 22 doubles. Like I said, in not even a full season's worth of plate appearances, if you're an everyday player. And so if he plays, if he gives you what he did last year, 5 home runs, or actually I need to look, I'm sorry, that's the splits. Let me go back here. If he gives you what he did last year, which
9
was
and 50, I think.
Yeah, 9 home runs, 22 doubles, 3 triples. I mean, pretty much all that data. He only had 19 plate appearances the first year. But if he gives you all that, like, I'm fine.
Well, let me ask you this. Would you like it if the Royals acquired Stephen Kwan?
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Isaac Collins had numbers Stephen Kwan in 2025, 272, 330, 374. which is the average is higher, the on base is lower, the slug is lower. If the Royals got 272, 330, 374 from Isaac Collins, you'd be happy. And he, left fielder, solid defense, probably can't play anywhere else in the outfield. I'm not saying he's Stephen Kwan, but the numbers aren't that far off. You want to talk about extra base hits? What did he have? Let's see, 41 extra base hits and 693 plate appearances. That's a lower percentage than, what did you say, 34 and 465?
Yeah.
Is that what it was? Yeah.
It was.
Let's say lower percentage. He's not. I don't know. He might be Stephen Kwan. I don't think he is, but the Royals acquired a guy with better numbers than Stephen Kwan.
He's a lot better than MJ Melendez.
Well, I don't. You and I actually had a better season than MJ Melendez.
But I think that's important to note, because I know the outfield was terrible and you'd like to make it great, but by just making it serviceable, they were 82 and 80 with getting just the worst outfield production you could possibly get. So if the platoon of Caglione, and if they can just get average play out of the corners, and Kyle Isbell keeps playing great defense in center field, and they're a below average outfield, but not the worst outfield in baseball, and they do everything else the same, they're a playoff team. If Carter Jensen makes them significantly better, they're a division winner. If Jack Caglione realizes his potential, they are fighting for the best record. I mean,
there are levels, there are layers here. Yeah.
Because they're good at other things. We're not asking them to be the greatest outfield of all time. They don't have to be.
It goes back to, I said this, I don't know how many times I said this during the season. If they had 2024 MJ Melendez and Hunter Renfroe on the 2025 team, they make the playoffs. They missed the playoffs by 5 games. If they and everybody was done with Melendez after 2024, but he was bad, not horrific. He had, I think it was 85 weighted runs created plus. I might be off on that a little bit. It was, I think, minus 14 in 2025. So you're right. They don't need greatness. They need not terrible, because they have, I keep coming back to this. They have the horses. They've got Bobby Witt. They've got Maikel Garcia. They've got Vinny Pasquantino. They've got, hopefully, Salvador Perez continues. And the expected numbers on Salvador Perez give you hope that even if he falls off, he'll regress to the mean a little bit and all that. The bottom of the roster needed a massive upgrade. And I think so far they've done it. Back to the original point, I think that they have done quite a bit to make the bottom of the roster better, which is sometimes the easiest way to add 3 or 4 wins. Yeah. And I think they need to add 5 wins to last season to make the playoffs. I think 87 wins probably gets it done. I don't know that they've done that yet, but it's not, you don't have to put on the highest prescription glasses to be able to see how they could do that.
Yeah. What else would you like to see him do?
They need one more bat. I still think. I look at the roster right now. It still has, if you started today, you've still got 2 of John Rave, Tyler Tolbert, or Nick Lofton. And ideally, I'd like to have 0 of those 3. I like what Tyler Tolbert can bring from a base running standpoint, but I would rather see one more hitter. I think that they need, especially with the Serpa trade, I think they need a lefty reliever. I think they need a little bit. There are a lot of good lefty bats in the division, and it would be great to have somebody to neutralize them. One thing, I wrote about this back in October or November, and then somebody reached out and said, I think this could happen. Michael Massey for Garrett Clevenger from the Rays. I think that you're looking at, the Rays are going to trade Brandon Lau. They'll need to fill second base. I keep coming back to that because Michael Massey feels like a Brandon Lau replacement to me. I think his back on that turf would be a disaster, but that's not my problem or the Royals' problem, because they are going to be back at Tropicana next year. But Clevenger, a lefty who can get strikeouts, I would love that. A lot have flown off the board in free agency in the last few days, so it's probably going to have to be a trade. But I think that you do that and you start to say, okay, I can see how this is 86, 87, 88 wins.
Yeah. I think, and they still, like we've mentioned, have their trade chips.
Right.
Yeah. That's the important part.
And I mean, at some point, they're not going to trade Cole Reagans. unless they get absolutely blown away. Like they're not going to trade Cole Ragans for Jarren Duran, but if the Red Sox get desperate, if they don't get that number 2 starter that they want behind Garrett Crochet, and they start to say, okay, what about Jarren Duran and you never know, especially that AL East is crazy, and the Orioles have done a lot, not enough. The Yankees haven't done anything yet, really, but they will probably. The Blue Jays have an unlimited supply of money now, apparently, which they always probably did. They should have been spending it. The Red Sox are going to have to keep up. It would not surprise me if they end up overpaying. And the Royals don't want to trade him, but they may end up doing it. But if they don't, they have a lot of options. All these guys are, like you said, are still there. And I think they ultimately do bring in one more bat. I don't know if it'll be that bat that you look at and go, oh my God, that's amazing. But I do think they're going to get at least one more, and probably Adam Frazier, by the way. I still can't imagine. You can't trade for a guy, talk up his clubhouse acumen, have him hit pretty well, and see the team turn things around, and then say, all right, have a good time at your next team. I just don't think you do that. I think they're going to bring him back. And that's where I think the Massey deal comes in. I think they're going to have to trade Massey. But yeah, I think I would like to see one more bat, and I think they get it.
They just got a platoon partner, and they had a platoon in right and a platoon in center, and Collins in left.
Yeah, it's
probably better. You're better.
Probably works. I wonder, is it Rob Refsnyder? That would be interesting. He does really well against lefties. I don't know if he's looking for more of a starting job. And it's kind of funny because outfield at bats are suddenly hard to come by in Kansas City. A little bit harder to come by now. I thought it was interesting that the report they were in on Adolis Garcia. I think that's very telling. That I don't know what they offered. Look, they could have offered more than the Phillies did. We don't know it. On a 1-year deal, a hitter is better off going to that park than Kauffman Stadium. So maybe he said, look, I know you're offering me $12 million, but I want $10 million to hit 40 home runs. Okay, that's fair. But they're clearly not. They clearly aren't satisfied with what they have, because if you're offering Adolis Garcia, then you're offering other people too.
Yeah, if Austin Hayes is going to platoon with Caglione and Lane Thomas is going to platoon with Kyle Isbell, and then Isaac Collins is going to play in left every day.
Yeah, and look, if Caglione takes off and Collins loses playing time, okay.
Yeah,
I think you're in good shape there.
Yeah, I do too. We'll see what else they get done, because they've still got time and they've still got all their trade chips. So there's a lot of reason to still be excited if you're a Kansas City Royal. We'd be excited if you'd support our great sponsors. They support the Kauffman Corner podcast. If you're a fan and you manage or own a business, with free consultations, no commissions, and in-house crews, make sure Gann Asphalt and Concrete takes care of your parking lot. Every project comes with a written warranty. Make your parking lot safer, help you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. With 15 locations in Missouri and more on the way, Greenlight is the go-to for all your cannabis needs. Tell them you heard about it here on the Kauffman Corner podcast. Our friends at Whataburger are open 24 hours a day, serving breakfast 11 p to 11 a. Try that sweet and spicy bacon burger today. It's available for a limited time. And, of course, our friends at Frontier Justice. Locations in Lee Summit, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, and Jenks, Oklahoma. They are the premier firearms retail, indoor shooting range, and training, all under one roof. Whether you're new to shooting or a seasoned pro, you'll find their great staff, top-tier gear, and a strong sense of community. Find them online at frontier-justice.com. For our man, Les Norman, who is enjoying a little vacation down in Florida, for David Lesky from Inside the Crown, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here